Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. Sunday, February 15th. For most of us, or all of us in the world at this moment. So glad to see everybody, have you all here. Good morning, Donna. How is everybody doing this Sunday morning for many of us? How did you start your day today? No matter what time of day it is for you. I did a guided hypnosis as my morning meditation. And I cozied up on the couch. Hi Caroline, good afternoon in the UK. Glad to have you. Donna, gratitude and coffee. I'm curious if you care to share what gratitude looks like for you. How do you practice that? I don't know about this light. Well, I'm so happy to be here with you all, as always. And for those who have celebrated the Valentine's Day holiday, wishing you well, wishing you love, connection. If it was with a romantic person, or with yourself, or with friends. Ooh, that sounds wonderful, Caroline. Cacao. Cacao meditation and puppy. How is it to meditate with a puppy? That sounds like it might be pretty active, an active meditation. Oh, nice, Donna. So you contemplate 3 things that you're grateful for. Having a day off, cats and sunlight. I know, Donna, I think you've mentioned your work not being an optimal situation for you, if I remember right. So it would make sense that you would be grateful for a day off. Today is also my day off. I am blessed and lucky in that I've created my own business and I get to choose my schedule and work. And today is my day off aside from this live stream. Which, you know, it's not work. Oh, nice, Caroline. I remember Eckhart Tolle talks about dogs being the epitome of presence, and how you can just look into a dog's eyes and see full presence in the moment. I'd say that for children too, but he specifically says that for dogs. In corporate America, Donna. So before I retired from my 9-to-5 job, I worked for the same not-for-profit for almost 13 years. Many of you have heard that story. And it actually goes along with our live stream. a bit. So if you are new to me, I'm Natalie, spiritual life coach and Reiki master teacher. I've been a teacher here almost 5 years on Insight Timer, and so blessed and grateful to be a part of this app. You know, I have evolved along with the app. I've been using it 12 years. And, you know, the app has evolved a lot since then, as have I. And, yeah, when I started my coaching business 5 years ago, it was around this time, 5 years ago, that I went in to use Insight Timer, and I saw, when you open the app, these bubbles of people that were live. And I was like, oh, what's that? And I realized they were teachers on here, and they were teaching live streams, and I thought, I want to do that. And I took steps to do it. And here we are 5 years later. Good morning, Nancy. Glad to see you as always. Welcome. So, love Insight Timer, the community. You know, it's a wonderful example of evolution, and a wonderful example of how, you know, 15 years ago or whenever the app started, somebody had an idea. Somebody had an idea to make an app with a timer for meditation. I mean, that's why it's called Insight Timer. And from that inspired idea, you know, that was the beginning. And then it was guided meditations, you know, content driven by meditation teachers and other sorts of spiritual teachers. And then from that, look at everything that's available now. So this app has evolved over time, just like all of us, you know. And I wonder, for you in your life, is there something where you thought, ooh, this is a good idea, I'll do this, I'll start this. But then it turned into something completely different over time. Good morning, Allie. Welcome. Glad to see you. You got the app for the timer when it started. And I always remember, because I was living in Bali, and the person who started the app was also living in the town in Bali where I was living. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, the creator of Insight Timer, you know, lives, I mean, he wasn't from there. He was, you know, an expat. But I always felt a connection due to that. Yeah, so, you know, even this is a wonderful example to just slow down on and reflect on. And we don't even know, you know, I'm sure that when the person who invented and created Insight Timer all those years ago, to just have a bell at the end of a timer, you know, and they sold Insight Timer, I think, many years ago now, but still, if we just look at the evolution of the app, the first impulse and intention was not for it to be what it is today. And look at what has happened over just following next impulse, next impulse. So I feel like this is a part of our teaching for this morning that's coming through and wants to be shared. So, you know, I want you to think about, is there something in your life where you have an idea or have an impulse? And if so, you just don't know what's going to happen as a result. And the thing is, it's like the action followed the impulse. I mean, so many people have ideas all the time about doing things, and yet having an idea, having an inspired thought is very different from taking action to make it happen. So even using the insight timer example, that the original creator had an inspired idea, had to take massive action to create an app, especially like 15 years ago. App creation was much different than it is now, especially now with AI. So all of that effort and intention, created version 1, likely was just a timer. So, the topic of our live stream today is when you can't go back but don't know how to move forward yet. So, not exactly related to the example that's coming out so far, and I trust that somebody needed to hear what's just been said. And I wonder what it is for you. What is a creative idea, an inspired moment that you've put maybe on the back burner that you haven't taken action on? Let's take a breath together. Oh, wonderful, Allie. I imagine you must be in Pacific time. So I'm in Mexico, and my time zone does not change. So depending on if we're in if you're in the US, Canada, if you're in daylight savings or not, that changes my time zone. So right now I'm in Central Time in the US. And then when daylight savings starts, I'm back in Mountain Time. For anybody who wondered. Oh, nice. Bay Area. So when you can't go back but don't know how to move forward yet. And I wonder for you all here, what does that idea bring up for you? And what do you feel like you can't go back to? What's been coming up a lot in my teachings here on Insight Timer, as well as my work with individual clients in my coaching business, there's been a big theme of awareness. And like I said, it's come up a lot in here, and thinking about having a beautiful gift of awareness and awakening. And it's like once your spiritual journey starts, once this awakening begins, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to blissful unawareness, or maybe not so blissful unawareness. And I know that I've talked to a lot of people, in the recent past who feel, yes, they're happy for their spiritual journey, and it's difficult and uncomfortable. But yet, it's where they are. And there's no going back. And I'd be curious to hear any of you who care to share. You know, can you pinpoint your awakening moment? Or maybe it was a time period in your life. For some, it might have been a very sudden experience. For some, maybe a gradual awakening process, but you can still look back and see, oh, over this chunk of time is when my awakening started. For me, I'd probably say my biggest example of this happening, and it fits exactly with like when you can't go back but don't know how to move forward. It was over 20 years ago now, and I had a boyfriend that was older than me, and he was very intelligent. Excuse me. And one night we were having this deep discussion about religion and spirituality. And up until that point, I had been a Christian, and I never questioned it. It just was a belief I grew up with. Was something I felt comfortable with, and I just believed it. And we had a talk one night, and he said a sentence I'll never forget. And I don't know why now, like why this sentence landed so deeply. You know, whatever, it was a long time ago, I was where I was. And this is just what did it for me. But he said believing in Jesus was the equivalent of believing in Santa Claus. And I don't know why, but him saying that just broke open my entire religious paradigm. And I'm not here to debate right or wrong or religion. I'm just sharing my own experience. And that statement totally just shook my world and my beliefs, and I never was the same again. It's so crazy. I think I remember like staying up all night and just pondering this statement. And I mean, there was more to the discussion, but now, you know, almost 25 years have gone by. I can't remember all the details, but I remember that statement. And I was never the same again, and I never believed in the traditional religious paradigm of Christianity ever again. And yet, it took probably 2 years for me to orient into my new paradigm and my new spiritual beliefs. I was very uncomfortable. It was unsettling, it was uncomfortable, it was unknown, because I had never questioned my previous belief system. And it just was the context in which I saw the world at that time. So when that immediate, you know, overnight paradigm shift happened, it was very uncomfortable. And it's like, excuse me, I don't want to say we all say, but many of us say like, oh, I want a spiritual awakening. I want to have, this beautiful experience and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it ain't like that. Hi, Drake. Today we're not doing Reiki, although please join me. I think on Wednesday we will be doing Reiki. Thank you for asking. I also offer Reiki one-on-one as a paid service that I offer. Good morning, Trish and Monica. Alma. Hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, one sentence. You just never know. And like, I think about that one sentence now and I'm like, why was that the sentence that did that for me? I don't know. But it was. Allie, you had a disconcerting experience that shook up your whole world. Yeah. So to orient back to the topic, you know, I could not go back. I could not unsee what had been awakened in me. I couldn't do it. And then, you know, when you can't go back but don't know how to move forward yet, I didn't know how to move forward. I'm like, I don't even know what to pray to now. I don't even know. And thank God, you know, most of you know I'm in 12-step and I had that support. You know, 12-step programs are spiritual. They're not religious. They're broadly, generally spiritual. And thank God I had that spiritual support. But it took a few years and it was very uncomfortable. And you know, there was a grief. Amma, I thought maybe you were from India with your name, but then you're speaking Spanish. Ooh, Allie, I've never heard that before. Having your head in the tiger's mouth. Totally. So it was this uncomfortable space. So I wonder if there's anybody here now who is in that. And if so, you could give an emoji in the chat of how that's feeling for you, or if you're on the other side of it, how that was for you. You know, I felt restless. I felt unmoored, like a boat, you know, in the water, being tossed by waves and not having any oars and being alone. That's how it felt. And I was totally open to just, you know, anything. Any sort of religion, I mean, aside from traditional Christian beliefs. But for me, I think it was, you know, the collapse of this belief structure that was like, there is one correct belief system which makes all other systems wrong, and it's tied to one, quote, person, God, that comes to save humanity. So, you know, it's part of the process. And it might not be like, that's just the example that came up for me. It might be something else for you. It might be that you know you can't tolerate your current situation. Maybe it's job. Maybe it's relationship. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's your relationship with yourself. And you're just like, I can't do this anymore. but yet you don't know exactly what's next or what it will look like. Okay, Amma from the US. And you have a new religious belief system from which you can't go back. You know, and that's what happened to me. I just adopted my own system. I created my own spiritual belief system in which I chose. And it wasn't like, I'm going to go out and find a new religion. It was this breaking open and just this open space. And, you know, like I said, this was 25 years ago. If it had been now, so much more technology and information is available. You know, maybe I would have jumped on Insight Timer if it would have been available. But, you know, it was just, you know, being open to what was around at the time. Stephen, 1 year ago today. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry to hear that happen to you. You've lost everything, including your entire identity. Yeah. So you said it's been pining to return, but you can't, or it can't. So with such a great transition and loss that you've had, what has helped you in the past year? What have you been able to kind of land on or orient to? It was your spiritual journey beginning. Same like me. And, you know, for me, it took a few years. I'm also reminded, many of you know, I was in a drug rehab center when I was 17 years old for almost a year, and it was a very militant, strict, brainwashing Christian drug treatment center. And I was in there for almost a year, and when I got out of there, there was a definite time period of who am I? What am I? You know, what do I do? How do I orient to life? What is my relationship with life? Because I had been deeply institutionalized. And then I started using alcohol and drugs again, and then things changed. So it's like, great point, Amma. And as we have patience and faith, and Ali, yes, surrender, how can you be in that transition space to where it can be comfortable? Because it's an in-between. And I do want to ask, what do you know that you can't go back to? What do you know? It's just no more. Alcohol, Donna, I can raise my hand to that one. For me, those old religious paradigms, that was a different version of myself that believed in that. For me, alcohol and drug addiction, I can't go back to that. And that's another example, you know, the process. So if anybody has habits, addictions, distractions, escapes that are out of balance for you in your life, how can you be in this space where it's disorienting? Like Stephen's example was really powerful. Trish, wonderful. And even, that's a great example, not going back to your voice being small. Even things like that. You know, it's a different paradigm that you're operating from. You know, and in my work, in my life coaching work, you know, we work with that. Setting boundaries, saying no. I was on a call with a client the other day. They were asked to do something by an organization they were involved with, and they did not want to do it. But they felt obligated, and they felt guilty if they said no. And I was like, do you want to do this? And she's like, no. And I'm like, you don't have to do it. You're not obligated. You're not committed. She had taken this training to be able to do this thing. And so on the coaching call, we wrote the email together, or I helped and supported her in that. And she sent the email saying, I'm not going to do this. And we worked with the wording. It even started out, she started out, her draft was, I'm sorry, I can't do it this year. And it came to, it's like, you don't say sorry. So we took that out. And I offered to her the language, I'm not available for this. Because that's not, you know, sometimes people will hide behind lies. Like, oh, I have another obligation, or I wish I could, but I can't. But none of that was true. She just didn't want to do it. So the final email that she sent was, you know, I'm not available to do this, and, you know, a couple other things. You know, the old version of her would have just said yes and done it out of obligation and guilt. Wonderful, Alma. I feel the same, and that was part of that awakening a long time ago for me. Donna, can't go back to toxic intimate relationships. Amen to that. So once you've let something go, once you've evolved to a place where it's just not an option anymore, but yet, then it's like, now what? You know, we want to get comfortable with the in-between, because that's part of the journey and the process too. And it's not just going to be all or nothing, one and done. So is there anything with, you know, there's different things people are talking about here. Is there anything that feels unresolved or unfinished about, you know, this area of your life that you can't go back to, but yet you haven't fully embraced or fully created or fully living into whatever's next? Is there anything that feels unfinished, feels unresolved? Donna, changing your actions to achieve what you don't choose to go back to. That makes sense. And that's what it takes. I mean, for me, looking at, you know, when I did finally hit a bottom in my alcohol and drug addiction, and I, you know, one day at a time decided not to pick up a drink or a drug in those early days, I had to change all my actions, everything. And, you know, I mean, that was its own awakening as well. And the thing was, the support of the 12-step program, I had to have that. I wouldn't have been able to do it without it. And there's many different ways to do that, and that's what I had to have, and thank God it was there. I had to immerse myself with support. And so, you know, there's not always a 12-step program for these, you know, a spiritual awakening or a realization, you know, that I'm not letting my voice be small anymore, or a realization I'm not going back to toxic relationships. So you get to also get support for yourself in other ways. You know, here, Insight Timer is wonderful. Hi, Jessie. So, great example. Thank you for sharing. Have you shifted your ways of being at work to where you're not acting from the old programming? And two, like things like that, it's not going to necessarily be overnight. Oh, all of a sudden, okay, not doing that anymore. And even, you know, these ways that we're showing up differently in the world with, say, setting boundaries, using our voice, etc. You know, growth is like this. It's down, you know, we might go back and then we go up and up and up and up. Thank you, Alma. Wonderful, Trish. You know, and the thing is, with the old systems and paradigms, there was certainty. There was familiarity. There was, I know what to expect. I know what this looks like. I know what to do. I know what's expected of me. So when you pass this threshold and you know you can't go back, it's going to be unknown and uncomfortable for a while, and depending on how big the shift is, like for me, like I said, it was 2 or 3 years of not knowing what my spiritual life and beliefs looked like. You know, and we've got to replace the old with the new, like me with the getting clean and sober. I had to replace everything. And as I said, even with the spiritual awakening, I had to replace the old paradigm with the new, but that did not happen overnight. Awesome, Donna. Good for you. Speaking up for yourself at work. And Trish on Tuesday. Amazing. So, you know, that's how it happens. Like one uncomfortable movement. And, you know, it doesn't have to be big and bold. It might be, but it might not be. It might be, you know, a tiny action. Welcome, Rajat. Good afternoon. And there might be self-doubt. Rajat, that sounds difficult. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Feeling like you're not able to speak up. And you know, as far as being in this, you know, I can't go back, but don't really know how to move forward yet energy. I just invite you to think about, is there any energy of waiting? Is there any thoughts of, I need to feel ready, I need to know the whole path and the whole picture before I move forward? And a saying that I love is, more will be revealed. So if you don't know the next step, more will be revealed. And two, you know, I want to speak for getting individual support, even like I provide. I would be remiss if I did not say, in my life coaching, these are the exact dynamics that I support people with. You know, to do it alone can be unsettling. And sometimes we will keep ourselves stuck because there's self-doubt, there's not certainty, wanting to feel ready, wanting guarantees, or wanting closure. So having the right support can be really helpful. So if anybody here, I know I've mentioned this before, has not received a gifted coaching session with me, I can offer my visioning process to you. Send me a message and we will look at all of this. You know, what can't you go back to? Where are you right now? Where do you want to be? What's getting in the way of you creating that? It can be very powerful and clarifying. So feel into your inner guidance. And if you feel that would be a supportive step, send me a message. You can do that here in Insight Timer. Or I'm on social, so I think I forgot to say earlier, please follow me here, follow me YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, website, and all of that is in my teacher profile here in Insight Timer in the About Me. And there's a link to all my links there. You know, you don't have to do this alone, and you are not alone. Yes, more will be revealed. Yeah, Alma, I like what you said too. I only need enough light to see the next step. Exactly. It's great, Rajat, that you can even notice that you feel a constant fear in your body. You know, what that says is there's nervous system dysregulation as a result of this relationship, which would make sense, especially when you have so much at stake with, you know, co-parenting. So I would say definitely nervous system support can be really beneficial. Yeah, Trish, learning how to not control so much. Let's draw a Michael Singer card. Speaking of not controlling, the author of the Surrender Experiment, The Untethered Soul. He teaches the same thing all the time: relax and release, surrender, surrender, trust, allow, let go. So let's see what he has to say as we begin to wrap up. I've never seen this one. I've never pulled this one before, and I've had this deck for well over a year. I love how that happens. So this is a quote from The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. So take this in. Break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. I will say that again. Break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. So definitely fits into our message here today. And we can count on Michael Singer always to orient us back to very simple, deep spiritual truths. They are not easy, they are simple. So if anybody wants that quote, send me a private message. So for those of you that are feeling in this in-between space after, knowing what you can't go back to, I want you to consider and give a word in the chat if you would like. What truth about where you are can you stop arguing with? Is there a tension happening with where you are right now of like, I can't go back, everything's changed, or I'm aware and I can't unsee and I can't do what I did before. but yet I don't know where I'm going next. The next steps aren't clear. What truth about where you are now can you stop arguing with? Are you arguing with reality? Are you wanting to be somewhere other than where you are? Just as a noticing, not of making yourself wrong. You know, it might be just reminding yourself, like, it's okay that I feel this way and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. There's a quote from the Alcoholics Anonymous book that's very famous in those circles that says, acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I am finding some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can find no peace until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as exactly the way it is meant to be in this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. I need to look at not so much what needs to be changed in the world, but what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. So, another way of saying what Michael Singer said. Hi, Pamela. And Byron Katie would also say, stop arguing with reality. And we do it, right? So it's great to look at these teachings and to remember them and to do our best to remind ourselves and to not gaslight ourselves with them and make ourselves wrong if we aren't, you know, doing all the things. Wow, Donna. Then you probably caught that I misquoted a little bit in some of the exact words. Wonderful. Sounds like you've got a good sponsor. So, you know, although our minds want to know what's next and where we're going and the path, it's okay. Just orienting back to this is where I am today, this is where I am right now, it's okay. Can I accept, you know, this is exactly where I'm meant to be at this moment? I mean, I'm in a place in certain areas of my life where I want to be somewhere else. I want to be through this transition process, and I'm not. And it sucks. And that's okay. Allie, yes, I have the Untethered Soul cards. You can see the cover of the card is the Untethered Soul. So for those who don't know Michael Singer, he's best known for this Untethered Soul book. And he also has his wonderful memoir, The Surrender Experiment, and newest, Living Untethered, although there is another one. I don't know if it's out and don't know the name. So, please don't forget to follow me here on Insight Timer. It supports me in what I'm up to, and I appreciate it. If this was helpful for you, please give a donation. And if you want support in this transition time, as I said, if you've not received a gifted session with me before, please reach out for my powerful visioning process. And we will deep dive into your specific circumstances and situation. Eliana, you're welcome. Glad this was helpful. Let's see. Here is my follow thing button on the screen if you'd like to. And I'll also share my newest one of my newest premium tracks, Set Yourself Free from the Past, Forgive, Love, and Let Go. So some of you may need, or not need, we don't need to do anything, may want to do this meditation if there's anything about, you know, self-forgiveness, getting stuck and not surrendering and trusting and letting go and forgiving yourself or others. Let's see. Oh, okay. All right, so our next live stream, I'm just going to share it here. When healing becomes a loop instead of a path forward. How many of you can relate to that? That's very common in spiritual circles. We stay stuck in fixing, you know, we can't move forward because we feel we need more healing. So we're going to dive into all that February 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So please RSVP, bring your friends. Wonderful to be with you all today. Thank you, Pamela. Wonderful. Glad to have you. And as I said, for anybody that feels that heart call, please reach out one-on-one. You can message me here or anywhere that I am. This and all of my live streams are double live streamed in my YouTube channel, so follow me there and you can catch all my replays. If you want any replays, send me a message. Thank you, Allie, for the donation. Hi, Jeff. Great to see you. Love it. Amen to that, Jeff. Thank you, Nancy, Trish. Wonderful. So I will see you all very soon. I know we've got a big astrological and Chinese New Year happening in 2 days, and eclipses and tons of stuff happening in the sky. So be with yourself, trust the process, be extra gentle, and be intentional about this time. Take advantage of this very powerful energy. And I will see you all very soon. Much love and namaste.